Welcome to the Point of No Return podcast, a show at the intersection of technology and strategy. On this show, we interview industry leaders and experts to better understand how they think about strategy during this time of exponential progress.
Hey everyone, welcome to this week's edition of the Point of No Return podcast. Today's guest is Narjès Boufaden, CEO at Keatext. Narjès is the person I've met that has the most passion about the field of artificial intelligence. And we had a really great chat about how she's trying to solve some technical challenges involving natural language processing. And Narjès is amongst the first researchers who specialized in text mining technologies for conversational text, such as dialogues and telephone conversations. She's also contributed a bunch in the field with research being published in over 15 scientific journals. Under the supervision of Drs. Guy Palm and Yoshua Bengio, she completed her PhD in computational linguistics in 2004 at the University of Montreal, and worked as a researcher in several universities and then at the CRIM, where she helped organizations dealing with information management challenges. We had a great talk where we spoke about how she got into the field of machine and human interactions and why she's interested in it, the founding story of Keatext and some of her early struggles, and also how they changed business model. And this point was interesting, is where they started first off as a service firm and then pivoted more to a product-based business. How she plans to make recommendations prescriptive instead of descriptive using her technology. And then, of course, the hype of the industry and how it's potentially changing over time. Narjès is super smart about the field, yet super humble. I think that you'll really enjoy today's conversation. Narjès, thanks for being on the show.
My pleasure.
It's a real pleasure to meet you. I've heard a lot of great things about Keatext, and I'm really happy that Lynn introduced us. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Really my pleasure. Thank you.
I guess as a first question, I always ask people that don't come from here is, why did you move to Canada from Tunisia?
So I was really interested to continue my education, and after finishing my engineering diploma, I had a professor coming actually from Université de Laval, and after a couple of months, he said, "Hey, you know, guys, if you're interested to continue your PhD or your master in Canada, I can provide you with you can actually get the documents that you require to register to the university and continue." And I was really interested to focus a bit on human machine interactions, and he was actually doing that course. So he was really like the right person to continue with him, my master. The other thing, like Canada was, I don't know if you guys seen that, but like we see a lot of movies and documentary talking about Canada, bears, snow. There's so wonderful pictures. They never talked about the weather as being really frosty, but they seeing the pictures. I was really hoping someday to actually to go there, and so everything aligned to go to Quebec to do my master. I wasn't really used to that type of weather. I myself is born in Belgium, so it's not as hot as Tunisia, which is my origin country. But I never thought it could be as cold as that. So, but anyway, I mean, it's really a good experience.
It seems to have worked out 20 plus years later.
Yes, exactly. So I'm really comfortable now, and this is really my country now.
What do you think got you originally interested in human and machine interaction? What sparked that curiosity at such a young age?
So it's a bit of cliche, but my father was a fan of science fiction. So he had a lot of books. He was reading a lot sci-fi books, and I ended up reading the books that he was reading. And afterwards, with the television, color television, and all of that, I started to follow a Star Trek movie, and the series really caught my attention because of all the technological advances, and specifically the possibility to talk to a machine and having a machine understand your questions and give you the right answers. And that was really the kind of thing that tricked my my curiosity and to understand how can we actually interact with machine in that way.
Yeah, we're going to geek out now. Like, which Star Trek? The Next Generation? Which
Next Generation
okay.
with Picard. Well, actually, I've seen all of them. The one that I really liked is the one with Picard.
Yeah, I was going to say I was a huge fan growing up.
Yeah, I really like the guy. I really like the guy. Okay.
So you studied here, and then you did a PhD in computational linguistics.
Yeah.
Why decide to continue pursuing an advanced technical degree?
So, I've done my engineering degree in Tunisia. Afterwards, as I said, I was really interested to learn more about human-machine interactions, which wasn't actually available in Tunisia. And because of that professor coming in for his sabbatical year and teaching us that course, I was really interested to, push a bit further that knowledge in that domain. And when I got to Université Laval in Quebec, I actually ended up not doing my master in that specific area, but in a connex area, which is related to natural language processing. And I was really focusing on conversational text, so dialogues, conversations. And I started I would say it's as if you have a software. The first thing you look at the back end of the software. So I was really looking to the back end of human machine interactions. So how can the machine understand the language? Because it's a part of the human machine interactions, right? So I did my master there, and I felt like it was really huge. I mean, there is so much to learn. You can't just, learn enough doing a master. So I decided to, continue that field, my study in that field. And I started a PhD in Université de Montréal. And back then, there was a big lab, in Université de Montréal, which is called RALI, which specialized in computational linguistics. And fortunately, they were focusing mainly on summarization and translation, which wasn't really the thing that I wanted to focus on. And I asked my director, supervisor then to be able to work on information extraction from conversations. And I was lucky, really, because he ended up, doing a project with search and rescue. So it's the research department of the government, Defense Canada, and they were interested to do information extraction from conversational text. So I did my PhD in that domain, and I was lucky enough to follow a course in machine learning with Joshua, and then talking with him, he said, "Oh my God, your thesis is so interesting." So I said, "Would you be interested to be my co-supervisor?" And he said, "Yes." So it was really like the stars aligned and helped me to better understand the challenges and all the technical aspects to that part of human-machine interactions.
Yeah, you mentioned so many different things I find interesting. You seem quite humble in your approach in terms of like the stars aligning, but there's the old expression also, you have to be good to be lucky. But you were obviously also at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
How was it working with Joshua? Obviously he wasn't as well recognized back then, let's say when you were doing your thesis. So maybe just give us a bit of background.
Yeah, sure. So he already had a big lab. So I think it was more than 15 students already there back then. But I'm not sure. I don't think that he was known as now it is the case. But what I really found interesting with him is that he's so ahead of his time, literally. So when I was with my supervisor, I was already talking about machine learning. So I wasn't interested to address that specific challenge of understanding language from a rule-based perspective. I felt like this wasn't be the right way to address that specific problem. And I told him, okay, I really need someone with a background with machine learning. And like Joshua was really the right person because he very quickly understood the challenges. And believe me, he was sometimes suggesting things and I was, oh my God, why is he thinking about that? I mean, why? And like a couple of years after, I really got it. I understand now why he was suggesting to do that, solving the problem that way. So no, he really deserves all the notoriety that he has, really.
So your PhD, can you give us a bit of insight? And was that led you to founding Keatext, or was it a separate idea?
No, so it was a separate idea. To be honest, my father is, as far as I remember, he was always an entrepreneur, really. And I knew that at some point I will be having my own business. What I didn't know is in what. Would it be the things that I've learned in school? Would it be something else? I really didn't know about that. But after my PhD, I thought, there is so much thing to do in terms of research that I started first focusing on academia career. So I did 2 postdoc. I went to Ottawa. Then I worked as a researcher at CRIM, which is the Research Institute of Computer Science. And it's only then that, talking with businesses, understanding what they need in terms of what they have, what they are facing in terms of challenges, and seeing the value of that, I understood that actually, I could start my business, in that area. And after working then for almost for a year and a half, I decided to start to launch Keatext.
So you launched Keatext in 2010, from what I understand.
Yes, it was in 2010.
What was the original idea, and has the idea changed at all, or the mission of the company?
So, yes, a bit, to be honest. At the very beginning, it was mainly focusing on professional services. I really liked a lot, and I still love that, being, facing a problem and finding a way to solve that problem within, information extraction challenges. So in that space. And I had the pleasure to work with a couple of businesses, of companies, and solve their problem. And actually, one of my biggest, big projects, I would say, that had a lot of success, with the Land Registry of Quebec. So it was really interesting challenge. They have to analyze notarial deeds automatically. Well, they were doing it manually at the very beginning. So they had around 150 people, legal assistants, literally reading the document and, doing the data entry in a database, so that can be published. That notarial deed can be published. So, for instance, if you buy a house, you don't want another person buying the same house at the same time, right? Mm-hmm. So there were legal constraints about first publishing the information, and that needed to be within 24 hours. And they also had another constraint that they couldn't actually hire more people because of budget restriction. And half of the crew, the staff, was going to retire within the 3 or 4 next years. And they weren't allowed to replace all of them. They were allowed to replace only half of them. So there was a bottleneck, manual data entry was a bottleneck for them. And they came in, and we've discussed, and we ended up actually helping them by automating that data entry process. So today they are doing it automatically. 60% of the documents that are uploaded on their website are analyzed automatically and then published automatically. And that is a huge success, because they never felt like that was possible. It's more than 26 different type of information that are extracted automatically from documents. And I'm not talking about, structured documents. It's really a notarial deed. So it's someone, writing text, and there are different styles, different notaries, different formats. So it's really like extracting information from, text.
I'm going to take a step back before we go into the next evolution as to how you went from professional services to having a software solution. You mentioned something I found interesting I want to go back to about you always wanted to start something, and you had the example from your father. How easy or how difficult was it to make that jump?
So it's never easy, especially when you have family and kids, which was my case. So it is my case, still my case. But at some point, like in my case, I can't talk for everyone. Like I'm not sure every entrepreneur went through that same path. But in my case, I was really a bit frustrated because I couldn't do what I wanted, and with the speed that I wanted. So, working in a government institution, it has, like there is a hierarchy, there are rules and a lot of stuff that wasn't helpful for me to actually being able to achieve and accomplish what I wanted to do. And at some point I said, okay, enough of that. I mean, I need to move on. I need to do what I think that is the right thing to do. And this is how I jumped. And I was really fortunate because I already had a project running on and they were really interested to follow on. And so it was with minimal risks.
What was the toughest thing in those first few years? Right? You guys have been around for 8 years, and now it seems from the outside there's the external success, recent funding, right? But it's the kind of 8-year overnight success story. Yeah. In the early years, what do you find was the most difficult thing when you weren't really sure that this is going to work out in the end, right? Yeah. Back then, no one was even talking about natural language processing or machine learning, right?
Yeah, that was a challenge. There are different type of challenges back then. One of them was, of course, and that was tied to the fact that I was doing professional services. It's really hard to plan, for your next 6 months or, for a year, because you don't know if you will be able to have additional projects. And because that type of technology is really expensive and you need to team up with big teams or big companies, typically that would take a lot of time. So your biz dev, cycle is really long. So having that money to keep up with 6 people, to continue to pay 6 people while you don't know if you will have, additional projects to sustain growth is one of the main challenges that I had to cope with. And actually, one of the reasons why I've pivoted to a product company, but I'll be back to that later. The second thing was about being able to convince businesses that even when you develop a first project and it's working pretty well, you can actually improve that project and be optimized better. Have better results, better accuracy, and then have a better return on investment. But for some reasons, people they tend to say, oh, okay, but you're already doing a lot of interesting things. I mean, it's huge. We have a huge return on investment. And that, on a personal level, was really frustrating for me because after spending time, finding out what would be the appropriate approach to solve that problem, I knew that there are things that can be added, and that scientific aspect of me being able to improve further and not able to do that was really frustrating for me. So the continuing work of improvement, you can't actually get that when you are doing professional services.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's like you're on the other side and you can see the potential of where,
pushing further, the technology.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then, so I'm kind of answering the question, but I guess that led you to the insight. Okay, well, we need to pivot. We need to create a product, a software. So I'd love you to maybe deep dive into it. How long has it been? A bit of what the product does as well.
Yeah, sure. So as you said, after a couple of years doing professional services, I wanted to grow. I wanted to work on one project that I can, improve continually. And even if I was really I could have a great living from, professional services because it pays a lot when you have your projects, but you can't really grow fast. And that was really like one of the main problems or challenges that pushed me to pivot. And so we've decided to, like, after 4 years, I've decided that I would like to pivot. And I started to talk to people, okay, what would be the right time to start, fundraising? Because I had money, I knew that I can develop a product, but all the sales, marketing, like putting in market the product is another story. So what I decided, and it was, again, stars aligned, because one of my customers, who happens to be Bombardier Recreation Products, was interested to use that type of technology to mine feedback from his customers. And I did a very quick prototype showing them the potential of, using that technology that I had developed. And they were really amazed, and they said, oh my God, that would be so great if you can, package that in ways that it would be easy to use. And, I studied the market, and I started to ask a couple of businesses, okay, is that a challenge for you to be able to, understand what customers are saying, all the data that you are getting from them, are you reading that data? Is it interesting for you? Does that have a certain value? And like most of the time, people were saying, yes, we actually are reading, a sample of those information and trying to understand what customers are saying. And so I felt really like there was a need, and it happens also to reports from Gartner and other market research firms were really emphasizing the fact that now customer experience is like the major trend. Like businesses are really starting to focusing on that, and looking to the technology, I really very quickly understood that there was a potential there, and that would be my product. That would be Keatext.
And I'm guessing, to fast forward, that led you to building a team, getting funding, and being where you are a little bit today.
Yes, exactly. And so while back then I had other projects from my version 1, Keatext version 1, doing professional services. And I also had a coach that actually helped me a lot, pivoting. And I was talking to him, and I told him, no way I can do both businesses by myself. Like I still have professional services projects, and I wanted to focus on the product. I really need someone to help me with that. I would like to see if I can have a business partner. And this is maybe a couple of months later, I was really active in looking for someone to help me with that. And I ended up, it was the third person actually with whom I tried to work. And it seems that the third one was the right one. So I ended up teaming with Charles Olivier, who is now my business partner. And it very, very interesting background. He was one of the very first employee of Einstein, doing exactly what I've been doing, professional services, pivoted to a product, then acquired. He was really the right person to see, all that path from professional service, product, startup, and then, moving on to a big enterprise. And so we actually worked together starting in October 2014. He wasn't yet my partner. We were dating and seeing actually if we can work together as co-founders. And after 4 months, we've decided to move on, and we fundraised in February, and that was the time when he formally joined Keatext as co-founder.
Very cool. Very cool. So how have you decided to divide your time now that you have someone that's your business partner that's leading the tech and product? Are you focused mostly on business development, or are you focused on the team?
So we, after trying a couple of different versions, we ended up, he as a CTO focusing on the product, but also focusing on developing partnerships. So, putting all the processes around the sales team, he's really good at that. And scaling, because he lived that, he knew how to do that. And so he's really the person who is working on putting the processes to be able to scale the different departments. That's really huge. And for me, I'm really focusing on all the finance, all of it. So making sure that we have cash, to run the company. So investors, all the talks is like I'm really the person who is talking to investors. I still work with the NLP team for the product as an advisor. So I sit with them every week to discuss challenges in terms of natural language processing and machine learning. And I do a part of the sales. So I do biz dev, of course, meeting with big businesses, converting them. So we do have a couple of folks now with us, big brands, NASA, American Express, Videotron.
Yeah, just a few that you could recognize. NASA, who's that? So very cool to see the team's growing. You guys have obviously divided labor, but what would be the ideal use case? Like, what is the ideal type of customer, and then what is the value you offer them with your current product?
Yeah. So we're really targeting businesses who are in sectors that are very competitive. So like finance, banking, telecom, hospitality. There are a couple of industries where the market is really mature. There's a lot of competition, and the product is really almost the same, I would say. It's really about how the company can react and listen to customers and be responsive. So what the perfect spot for us is with companies who are already mature in terms of customer experience. So they do acknowledge the importance of having a customer experience team. And second, the people who are already collecting that type of feedback. So having a CRM, like conducting surveys, like monitoring social media, and that is the perfect spot. So typically they will end up with a lot of information in one place, let's say a CRM, but how can you actually have a complete a 360 overview of your customer interactions and feelings and what they want and what they need. So the product is helping businesses to have a clear and very accurate view of what customers are talking about in terms of problems, issues, questions, suggestions in terms of improvement, praise if they do love the product. And having that, when I talk about accuracy, it's really because we are able to provide statistics around every, issues that customers have mentioned or every question that customers are asking. And with all the technology that we've developed in terms of natural language processing, we are really are able to synthesize all that information in bullet points. So you can actually have very fine-grained information without being, stuck with, having to read every interaction one by one, because we can aggregate based on the context, on the semantics, the sense of the words. So even if, 100 customers are talking about the same problem, but in different terms, the system is capable of, collecting and grouping all that information within one bullet point.
And it seems like a very, a very relevant challenge for companies today because of just the number of data points being collected, the number of channels customers are communicating feedback from.
Exactly.
How do you feel you compete with companies or competitors that are tangentially related to what you're doing? And I think of a few Montreal ones or Quebec-based ones that are in the similar space. They're using natural language processing as well. How are you guys different in your approach? First, there is a technological aspect, but there is also the business model aspect, and there is
the application in terms of what benefits. So if you look to the competitor landscape, whether it's in Quebec or even in the States, typically you'll have mostly and foremost a focus on, okay, people are talking about this, like in terms of tech clouds, in terms of, very, I would say, high level information. But and when it's high level, most of the time it won't be actionable information because you don't have statistics, you don't know exactly what is the type of problem and why, the root cause of that problem. And Keatext is capable of showing the root cause of problems. And because of that, it becomes actionable. So when you see what the reason why people are complaining about something, about the product, then you can act based on that information. So this is one of the very important differentiator. The second one is in terms of business models. So if we look to the competition, most of them are really like the license are really it's around, I would say, $100,000 to $200,000, which is narrow the number of businesses that can actually use that type of technology, which is a shame because everyone has customers and everyone would like to improve its business, right? So being able, because of the technology we've developed and the AI aspect, all of that, we were able to offer that service without being asking people to pay, $100,000 or $200,000 for a license, which has happened to be a very important asset for many businesses. And probably the third and the most important thing is really about how we've managed to overcome one of the main obstacles and friction point that other competitors have, and which is about tuning the product for that specific business. So if you know about text analytics, you know that whenever you have to work on text comes with a vocabulary, and that vocabulary typically is tied to a specific business. So other providers need to, every time, to set an implementation project or a customization project, basically to be able to, understand that specific vocabulary for that specific business and make sure that their system can, understand that language. And that we are talking about months of, customization and implementation projects. But what we've done in Keatext is that we overcome that because now the system is capable of automating that customization. So based on the data that you're uploading, the system will be able to recognize that specific vocabulary for the business and reorganize the weights around the information that is relevant to the business.
And how does it do that? Does it guess basically if there's a certain number of repetitions of a keyword, it'll say, oh, okay, well, this is a telecommunications company versus a aerospace? Or do you preset it in advance and say, well, if it's, Videotron that's calling, well, it's in this category? So just curious as to how you do it.
No. So what we've done is really a combination of unsupervised and supervised machine learning. So the supervised aspect of the machine learning is capable of recognizing the chunk of the sentence or the text that seems to be relevant, and that is based on many factors, whether it's the emotion, whether it's the vocabulary, without recognizing really the industry. We don't care at that point about the industry. What we do care about is really understanding what part of the text is important, and then the unsupervised part is really about recognizing or grouping information that seems to be relevant given the context of the data. So again, one of our differentiators is that we don't analyze the text based like taking sentence by sentence and forgetting about the whole text, and the whole text being all customers' interaction, because that whole actually is bringing a lot of information about the context and about the industry. So we are leveraging both information at the sentence level, but information, at all the interactions level, the whole data set.
That's great. That's great. And I'm guessing I won't go too deep on the technical side because I have a bunch of questions, but I guess maybe more on the business side is, given your recent funding, how are you going to apply that in your go-to-market? Are you just going to hire salespeople? Are you going to try and build it using marketing online? Just curious as to your approach.
Yeah, so we do have a sales team. We do have 4 people today doing the biz dev on top of Charles and I. But what we're doing is really first focusing on integrating with partners. So we are really working a lot with channels like survey platform providers, social media platforms, market agencies actually are also great partners. And we do have, we're not necessarily focusing right now on brands directly, like direct sales, but we do have a couple of brands, like NASA came in completely organically, just, following us. They found us on Google. They were interested. They called us. We've done a demo and they converted in a month and a half, which was like, it would be perfect. Like, this is the perfect sales, right? But we are really planning very soon around the fall to go back to direct sales on top of the channel that we do develop right now.
And your model, is it all SaaS? Is it a mixture of professional service and SaaS, or?
It's all SaaS. Sometimes we do professional services, but mainly to collect data from websites that the customer is interested in, but typically it's a completely SaaS model.
Okay, that's great. That allows you to scale. You understand your revenue model.
Yeah.
Is there anything that keeps you up right now?
A lot of things. My Series A, which is taking a lot of my time.
I could imagine.
And also, we're really pushing the product into a new high, and I really like that. I'm really interested to see how far we can get. So today we are really doing mostly reporting. We analyze the data, we generate reports. People can receive, emails and stuff like that. But my next challenge, on which we are already starting to work, is being able to push the machine not just to report, but to give some advice about how to improve your business. Like bringing some recommendations based on your customers. I'm not talking about the general industry. I'm really talking about you as a business and the way your customers are talking about your business. This is what would be, a good thing to do for them.
Yeah, you want to go from being descriptive to prescriptive.
Exactly.
And then I'm guessing that's going to increase your value significantly.
Absolutely. And going from there, because because of the automatic customization, we are kind of agnostic to the industry, right? Because the system does the work of customization. But imagine like millions, billions of customer interaction, going to the product learning about, how people interact with businesses in different industries, that amount of knowledge about how customers would like to interact, what they like, what they dislike, the future of a product, all of that, coming from multiple businesses within same industries, at some point you can start being a mentor for their businesses, right? Benchmarking them. Hey guys, we've seen this month that you had a lot of this. Usually or typically you would see this. So you might be interested to do that. So this is really the kind of near future actually, that I would like to...
and I can imagine you have plans of maybe expanding into different use cases, maybe more into the marketing side and expanding deeper your hooks in customer service, customer experience.
Yes.
I want to talk a little bit about the industry, right? Like obviously there's a lot of buzz, particularly around AI and in the city. What do you think's happening right now that's not gaining enough attention? That's a bit underappreciated?
That's a good question, actually. So let's start with what's happening today? So what's happening today is that people are going crazy with AI. I mean, literally. And it's really interesting because we do, of course, monitor our competition and the way they are talking about AI and the way websites are changing. The vocabulary used is changing. And what I'm seeing personally is that there is a complete overflow, like the scene is flooded with buzzwords about AI, and the silly thing or the sad thing about that is that people are talking about things that most of the time they don't understand, and that show up on the website, so you can actually see that, okay, but in a way, and that's my fear actually, like if you go back to the 70s and the 80s, when we started developing text analytic products, a lot of people, actually businesses, where, there was a lot of oversell, and they ended up with, losing faith and confidence in that type of technology. And I fear that because we are overselling AI and machine learning and all of that, we will end up, with exactly the same situation, which is really, it would be sad, right? Because there are businesses who are really doing the things the right way, and others who are trying to do it the right way. Sometimes they succeed, but sometimes they don't. But still, they're using the same text, the same, return on investment, the same vocabulary. So that's something that I'm seeing. Now, what is getting a lot of attention, but that we're not seeing the values. One of the things that really caught my attention is the chatbots. We are really talking a lot about chatbots. The chatbot works, it doesn't, but at the end of the day, a chatbot is merely an interface to converse. Okay, the business, the smart part of it is really the engine that should be developed to be able to understand the question and map that question to whatever knowledge base, whether it's a model or whether it's real knowledge base, to be able to answer the right question, And that part is really overlooked. Like, there's a lot of business, we have a chatbot, okay, but what about the other side, like the back end of that engine? What's happening about that? How are you managing? How are you providing the right answers? Did you think about developing that? And most of the time, they don't even understand that this is another technology. It's completely different technology. It's not a chatbot.
Yeah. I think it's really related to your first point, actually. Like, from my perspective, I see there is too much hype, too much attention, given, I think, where the current state is in terms of what's technically possible.
Yeah.
All that being said, I think it's great because the field's advancing so rapidly.
Absolutely.
But like you said, we are prone to oversell. When I hear, online advertisers saying we're using AI, and it's like, no, not really.
Yeah.
You're not quite there yet. You're just using programmatic advertising. It's been around for a while. We get to see things, like you said, on the brand side, on the customer side, not enough a deep appreciation of, if you want to build a conversational chatbot, well, there's more to it than just building the front end, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a very, very valid point. It's good. I like how both are very much related to your point. Maybe the reverse question is, what are you most excited about that's coming, that's maybe just around the corner, that's not quite there yet?
So you've probably seen Google Duplex.
Yes, yeah. And all the controversy surrounding it, but just the demo itself is obviously mind-blowing.
Yes, it's mind-blowing. I would be very interested to see how far, the system is capable of generalizing and actually being able to answer whatever subject. But I think we will see more and more AI assistant, and that's really amazing. I really love that. And this is definitely the thing that I would like to go there, but from, the back end side. How can you provide all the knowledge to make the answers really relevant? So you can actually ask not just, having someone take an appointment for you, but actually answering, questions about, for instance, your customer experience strategy. So I spent $200,000. What was the return on investment? Should I put another $100,000 or $1 million, or like strategy, thinking? That capability doesn't come with a chatbot. Chatbot is, as I said, the interface. It comes with the technologies that is capable of, inferring new knowledge based on observation from the data and giving you new insights and new information that can help you, craft your strategy and improve strategically your decisions for your business.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. You gave me a lot to think about, Narjès.
Okay.
Be respectful of your time. Maybe just one last question is, where can people find out more about yourself, about Keatext?
Yes, so we are actually everywhere. So we have our website, keatext.ai. We are on LinkedIn. We are on Twitter, Keatext AI, and we are also on Facebook. I do now have some publications on Customer Thing, so you can actually follow me on Customer Thing, and Forbes too. So
amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Point of No Return podcast. Never miss an episode by clicking on the subscribe button on iTunes or Google Play.